Hi, this is John with Hidden Highways, and I just ordered a sailboat which will fit easily in my van, and it'll be unknown to anyone except for me. And there's a van there, which I'm not going to go into the explanation of the whole van tour stuff here, but this is an old video I did. But anyway, so it's going to fit nicely inside there, or at least I believe it will. I think I can make it fit in there. But anyway, so we have to rearrange a few things. But anyway, so there's the van there. And what I want to do, and I'm going to plan on going on a trip in about a week in the van, and I'm planning on bringing the sailboat with me. Now, I've seen a lot of different van dwelling channels out there, and some people, what they'll do is they'll bring along stuff like bicycles or even motorcycles, and then, which is a good idea. It gives you more freedom, and you can explore places where the van or RV can't go. And then also if someone's traveling as a couple, it gives them then an extra vehicle to have too, the extra freedom there. But I haven't really actually seen like any van dwelling channel where they've really done something like bring a boat along. I mean, um, now usually a boat would be a real pain. Now you could do something like put a kayak on the top or something. I mean, that'd be good too. I mean, but although this will be even better because this will even be more stealthy than that, because it won't even be given the, that telltale thing of like, hey, this van's a little different because it's got a kayak on the top, even though you're in some place where where you might be happen to be far from water at that moment or something in some neighborhood. So this will be completely concealed on the inside. But anyway, so I haven't really seen much as far as like people bringing boats along. But I mean, but a boat, it's a really good idea because it gives you a lot more places where you can explore. Obviously, where you can't go with a wheeled vehicle, and then it just gives you an extra thing to do when you're at these campsites and stuff like that. And plus, and it's not like bringing along a boat on a trailer or something like that, which would be more like that would be more like a big time RV person who was going to maybe just stop at a campsite, and then I don't know, maybe they even bring a tow vehicle too, depending on how legal that is. But anyway, but yeah. Then anyway, so it's not going to work too good going down these dirt roads and stuff like that, and then and everything, and so it's just be a big pain, bringing a trailer everywhere. Obviously, if you're going to be going like a lot of different places, if you're not just going to one specific place to be for the weekend, But anyway, so yeah, this one will fit nicely in the van, and in fact, here it is right here. Here's off the guy's website that I'm buying it from. This is called Sailboats to Go. This guy's name is Jim Luckett, and he shows right here. He's got one that's, I think this is the same as the one I'm ordering, or at least real similar. But yeah, you can see how small those packages are. Now, yeah, I can definitely get those to fit. This is like the inflatable boat, and this is like the part like the sail and stuff, and there's like a mast, and there's these different brackets and stuff that are used for anyway, better just show you a picture of what that looks like. So here's some of the stuff once it comes out, and he shows like how to so you got to put all these kind of brackets on it. So these he didn't make this boat, obviously. This is a common boat, but coming up with this kit to put this sail on, this is something he came up with, and I actually tried doing something like this myself once, and it was just kind of tough. I mean, you just got to it probably took him a long time to actually figure this out, so I figured, okay, I'll just go ahead and buy the kit that we know that works. And then so you got stuff like these brackets and all this stuff, and then there's a thing called a lee board, which basically, if you know anything about sailing, that basically is like takes the place of like a keel. But anyway, won't get too much into like, and here's what it looks like once it's going. Let's see. Looks like you can go pretty fast in it. You can go upwind in it. Like a lot of like homemade like things like that. That's always a hard thing, getting a boat that can go upwind. But he's got it like where it's made where it can go upwind. Because obviously, if you can't go upwind, then you're kind of screwed. You're gonna have to wait someplace until like the wind changes. But this boat has the ability to go upwind. I mean, I don't know if it goes upwind as much as like like a regular like sailboat, but at least it might be pretty good. And then let's see a better shot of this thing. Try to put it in okay, here you go. Here's a little bit. So this is called a lantine sail, I think it's called. It's a little different than probably the sails that you've seen that were more like the one that goes. It's just regular mast, and then there's the boom that comes out that way. This is like a little different because it's got this little mast, and then it's got these. But one advantage of this is that it doesn't require that big of a mast. So this one looks like it's only about like 4 feet high, and then but usually like one of the, I think it's called a Bermuda sail, is the type of regular kind of sail that we're used to seeing like mostly in America. I mean, now there's also stuff like there's those junk sails that the Chinese have and stuff like. There's all kinds of different types of sails, but the most common one I think is called a Bermuda rigging, which is something like this boat back here. It's got a big old sail. Now obviously on a boat like this, though, if it was this big, maybe like a 10-foot boat, it'd probably still at least have about a like, maybe it might still have like a 15-foot sail, which would be like a mast, which would be a pain to have to bring along, especially because I think they probably usually have to make it as one piece. They can't make it where it comes apart or something. And yeah, it's not quite as pretty as like these as like the big, you know, flowing sail, but it still looked pretty nice. And then I don't know if this one I'm gonna have a flower on it, but anyway. And then also it doesn't need stays. Like see how these things have like these big stays holding it up. Now I know this is a giant sailboat, but even like a smaller sailboat, like a 15-foot or something, it's still gonna have to usually have some kind of stays, like these wires that go to like hold the mast up, keep the mast from falling over. But so, a type of sail like this, it doesn't require it. So anyway, so here's a little more of the guy sailing. And by the way, oh yeah, this can also be this raft also has like these oar locks on it, so I can put like oars in there. So if it ends up I get out there, that the wind dies down, I can always so he's going pretty good. So you can tell he's going upwind there because he's like leaning over like that. So you have to sit on the opposite side when you're going upwind like that to keep because the wind will tend to like try to tip a sailboat over. So you got to make sure that that's why you get over to the opposite side of where the sail is. Anyway, so yeah, it looks like it'd be real fun. And then and just so you know about this company, Sailboats to Go, he makes all kinds of ones too. Like you can buy just the kit. So if you already have a canoe, you can buy a kit to put a sail on a canoe. And you see like these are outriggers here, these things on the outside here. So that makes it to where like it keeps the thing from like, because usually like a sailboat's pretty a canoe's pretty tippy, but that'll keep it from tipping over. So now I can lean over pretty far and not like tip over. And then let's see, here's another one with some kind of little boat. I think, oh, this is another inflatable boat, just a little different than the one I'm going to get. And then he's got like a kayak. Anyway, so what he's done is actually gone on trips like where he brings like the whole kit with him in the and brings it through the airport, and then goes down to some place like in, you know, like the Virgin Islands or something, and rents like a kayak and then uses the sail on it. But anyway, all right, but anyway, so okay, I don't know what happened here. Let's try this again. So the one good thing about going on the sailboat thing here is that, let's just say I find like a little piece of water someplace, you know, that this it's already in there. Okay, I don't know why this video decided to screw up here. Okay, it's already in there, so you know you can kind of almost forget that it's even in there. You know, but then when like an opportunity arises, trying to find a shot here of this. Okay, like this. Yeah, okay, like when I happen to camp near this. This is like earlier this year. This was like in December, but it was a nice day. It was like 60 degrees, and it was in Nebraska, and I was by this little lake here, and you know, and I could just pull it down there and start sailing on this lake. I mean, you know, and even I think this lake actually had a boat ramp, but I think you wouldn't even need a boat ramp too, though. That's the thing with this thing; you can just carry it right to the water, so it's like you don't have to like even have like a ramp or anything. You know, as long as you have a place to park that's by a body of water that you know that safe. I mean, not like giant rapids or something, but you know, but that's the thing too. So where in the country is there like? So now, okay, now a small thing like this is like 10 foot. You know, you're not going to be going out in the ocean in this thing or anything, but what you're going to do is there's lots of sheltered waters across the country that you can go on. And the idea of a sheltered water is just some place that like, well, like let's just say like, let's say you had like the ocean here, right? And then, okay, you have like the wind blowing across, right? And it causes these giant waves. It just gets bigger and you know, it gets bigger the closer it gets to shore. These waves, and this length here of like how far the wind blows across the water, they actually have a term for that. They call that the fetch. But then if you have something like, let's say some little like island right here, you know, okay, then it's just gonna be like the waves aren't gonna be very big there, you know. And it's also gonna depend too. Like you might be in a situation too where like let's say, you know, here's like the land, and let's say if the wind's blowing like that, then you're not going to have very big waves here. But then if the wind's blowing this way, you're going to have like some big old waves. So that's the thing. And so you need like kind of shelter, basically bodies of water that aren't big enough to really generate like these giant waves is what you want to. And plus, well, there's a limit too as far as how big of just the wind by itself you want it to be. Because I mean, if it gets like the wind gets strong enough by itself, like I mean, it could just like capsize you, knock the whole thing over. But I mean, you know, I think he was saying, the guy who invented this thing, I think he was saying he's gone in like 20-mile-an-hour wind. I don't know if I'd actually go in 20-mile-an-hour wind. That seems kind of a lot to me, but I mean, you know, but we'll see. I mean, have to get a little experience on, figure out like how the feeling of it, and kind of err on the side of like not capsizing, especially if I'm going to be going early in the year when the water's still kind of cold, right? I'm always going to wear a life jacket too, so. Um, but where in the country is there lots of little like sheltered waterways and stuff like that, like little small things? Well, like the East Coast actually. Um, so, I mean, well, if you looked on the map here, yeah, there's going to be lots of lakes, across even like the eastern part of the U.S. Because obviously we know that there's a lot more rain on this part of the country. But even when you get near the ocean, um, there's all these little like inlets and stuff and everything on the East Coast, going all the way up, Chesapeake Bay. Here's like Washington D.C. off the Potomac, and then I guess it kind of stops around like maybe around like New York, and then, well, there's other inlets here, but this is a little bit different. These are more like okay, well, never mind. I'm not going to get into geology now. But anyway, so yeah, see how it's like that? All these like inlets and stuff. That was like one of the reasons why there's a lot of all these like in Virginia, all these like plantations, because the weather was good for it. And then they also had like all these like places where the ships could just like come right up and like to these different plantations. Now the East Coast, the West Coast actually isn't like that so much. Like the West Coast is more like this rocky stuff, so it doesn't really have all these like inlets like that. It hasn't formed like these estuaries. And an estuary is basically, well, they consider it basically, I guess, from a biological point of view, it's like area where salt water and fresh water are mixing. But what I'm thinking about, it's just a place like where, kind of like a partially enclosed piece of the ocean. So this is basically, you can think about this is just part of the ocean that still goes in here. So what it was is, I think they say the way that estuaries are formed is like originally like these rivers came through here and they kind of like carved out these valleys, and because this is more soft, like sandy area along here, it's pretty much like that until you get up here. It's what they call the fall line. Then it becomes more like rocky. So it was able to carve out these valleys pretty well. Then at some point the water level rose, and it filled it with salt water, and they call them drowned river valleys. So you have all kinds of ones like that. So there's all kinds of like little inlets you can go on. Now these are going to be mostly like tidal, depending on different factors. But a lot of these might have a tide, a fairly good tide in there. So you got to be careful with that, as far as like realizing that you got to fight that. I got to probably look a little more into that, like as far, because I haven't really dealt with tides, like, but as far as like knowing like, okay, how, I think there's some good maps that show you like the speed of the current at different times and stuff like that. Look at some of those and don't go any place where there's like some super strong tides and stuff like that, because you could either, you kind of be in danger of being like pulled someplace you don't want to go, or maybe if you got close enough, you can get pulled out into the ocean. But or you could get stuck in one of these areas like where all of a sudden the tide goes down and you get stuck like in one of these like flats, or these like tidal flats. Let's see, I think this was, okay, I can't find it right now, but yeah, so there's lots of places that I could explore along there. That'd be cool. Now my plan on the East Coast is going to be, my friend lives in Washington D.C., so I'm going to visit him and probably do either like some urban stealth camping around that area, or maybe some Walmarts. And I think I found some places that you may be able to camp. So that's going to be challenging. The East Coast is always more of like a challenge, right? As far as any kind of van trip, because that the West, the West is super empty. We know that, and until you get to the coast, this is super empty, real easy for camping. And now the East Coast is a lot more crowded, but it can still be done. Like there's a couple different national forests and stuff, and like this is Francis Marion National Forest, which I think it's like, I read that I think you can camp. There's different campsites, but I think you can camp there as long as you're you just have to get like a free permit, like for most of this dispersed camping. And then there's another one like up here. It's Croatan, I think it's called. And then there's a few other maybe places where you might get away with it, But I think it'd be cool to go to Charleston. This is an idea. I need to do some research, see how safe it is. But apparently, like here's like Fort Sumter, which people, this is going to depend on the weather too, and like if the waves aren't too big or anything. But people come out here to like Fort Sumter, and they actually have like you could pay for the water taxi to bring you out there, whatever, to Fort Sumter. But people have actually like done stuff like kayaked and stuff out there, and I think I don't know if they launch from like one of these spots or one of these spots. Now if you launch from here, then you'd have to go across where there might be big waves coming in from the ocean, but so maybe you wouldn't want to do that. But anyway, people have kayaked there, so it looks like I could just sail out there with that little dinghy and then pull up on the sand. Yeah, because people do. Yeah, so in some ways maybe the sailing is kind of like somewhat like the idea of having a kayak, except I think it's a sailboat's a lot more cooler because it's like you're letting the wind do the power, and it's just, I don't know, there's something about just getting pulled by the wind and feeling like that when you pull that rope just right, and you get you feel like, oh, then the wind really goes across that sail like at the right angle where it really pulls you along. And I really like that. I have like a bigger sailboat, like a 19-foot one. It's still not really like what they call a blue water boat. It's not made for like really big waves, but it's bigger than like a this 10-foot thing, so it's more like a traditional sailboat. But I mean, but it doesn't really matter. One thing neat about sailboats is, yeah, maybe the higher end stuff's more for rich people, but there's a lot of like just small sailboats a person could get just to do this. And the thing is, you kind of learn the same principles. I mean, the theory behind it is just the same as far as like figuring out what angle you need to pull the sail back and stuff like that to get it to go in the direction you want. But or to get like the wind to go across the sail in the way that you want. But the thing is, it's just that, like, instead of just using like some rope that you hold with your hand, like on a small thing like this, you're gonna have like a big winch thing, and then plus these big sailboats is gonna it's gonna be really tough to raise a sail, or some of them might require a couple people to raise those sails. Cause those giant ones, and someone to climb up to the top of like that 50-foot thing and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that. Have to climb up to the top of like a 50-foot mast. That'd be kind of scary. But I mean, you kind of clamped in or something, but have some kind of safety line. But anyway, yeah. So none of that kind of stuff. And then one thing as a bonus thing about sail boats that you don't realize is that now I don't know exactly how different boats have different capabilities, but this one could go into the wind. So let's just say, usually in a lot of sailboats, like let's say the wind's blowing this way. Okay, so what it is you can actually go upwind all the way up to like usually like an angle like about like this. So if I'm in a boat, I can go this way, I can go this way, then I go this way. I can't go this way. So what that means is if I was like down here and I needed to make it up here, I'd have to do what they call tacking. So it's like where you go out like at some angle like this, then you tack, and then you go like up to here. And then but a sailboat is actually a lot more maneuverable than you think. A lot of people, they say like, oh yeah, you go where the wind takes you. It's like, no, they're pretty like versatile, and they can, they're pretty maneuverable, and then you can you just can't go like directly into the wind, so you got to do a little zigzag. You can't take exactly always, but that's part of the fun too, so anyway, so yeah, I think sailing's a lot neater than like just like like kayaking or something like that, or something like that. And I think I actually like it more than like motorboats and stuff too. I mean, it's like, but yeah, so that's the plan for the trip. And let's see, anything else I want to say about the trip? Yeah, just yeah, so we'll see. We'll maybe try some of these places. I mean, if it seems like it's not too safe, then maybe I won't go to any places like these tidal areas. Maybe I'll stay in more like some of these lakes. I mean, I'm not making it like a thing like I have to do it this way. I mean, if it doesn't look too safe, I won't. But I need to get a little experience with it, probably with some small, like just like some enclosed lakes first, and then kind of before I, just get some feel for like just how big a waves the thing can take. And you got to look at the weather too, because like that can make a big difference in as far as like how strong the wind's blowing and what direction the wind's blowing makes a big difference too. And then yeah, and then go up to like see if maybe I can get my friend to go. See if I get my friend, maybe his wife, maybe see if either one of them wants to go in the boat with me. I think they say it can hold 3 people, but maybe 2 people, maybe with how, since I'm kind of heavy, but but maybe go somewhere in the DC area, or maybe Delaware or something. And then, I think you could actually, let's see, there's a boat launch place. It's actually, see, like, okay, the Potomac River, like I was saying about estuary, so it's basically an estuary. So it's basically like a tidal enclosed part of the ocean, pretty much, if you want to call it that way, all the way up until to get to DC. And then, yeah, the rapids actually start right after you get to Georgetown here. That's where, which is actually why they built Georgetown there, which was actually there before Washington D.C., is because it was like the furthest inland that the ships could go. And then a lot of times they would build these cities like Baltimore and stuff. They build them like right, like kind of like where the rapids would be, because then they could use like water power for like mills and stuff like that. Did you know that there's actually whitewater rafting in Baltimore? I just found that out. That's kind of interesting, but because that's right, there's actually rapids right there in the city, because that's right where it's rocky. But anyway, okay, yeah, like most of these videos, I always like go off into a million tangents, right? But I think at least I said the important stuff at the beginning of the video, so probably the part that'll catch people's attention. The rest is just kind of like, hey, and then. But anyway, but I think there's a place where you could launch like the sailboat, like pretty much right, like in downtown DC, and kind of sail it around. I don't know if you can sail it on this tidal basin or not, because I think I don't know if you can go under that bridge. I know they have like a bunch of like they rent like a bunch of like what do you call it, like these paddle boats and stuff like that. But I don't know if you're actually allowed to bring the bring any other kind of boat on there. But it might be a problem too with like that, whether this bridge is high enough for the mast. Probably like a regular sailboat definitely couldn't go under there, but maybe like that one, since it's got such a short mast, it might. And anyway, so there's different possibilities. And I'm not saying I'm going to be like sailing constantly, like, not going to, change the channel if I want to make it my brand. Change the channel like sailing van man, and then it's just like, the whole thing has to be like just about sailing the whole time. I guess that's how some of these things and so forth. But anyway, yeah, you got to make it a brand, so you got to do the same thing every time. Like John's Explorations, like you always explore like haunted places, or I mean, I don't believe in haunting actually, but ghosts, but let's just say if it was something like that, But yeah, so something like that, you got to make a brand. But no, I mean, I'm not going to make it for the whole thing, but I need to do it at least maybe enough to make it worth my while with all the money I just spent on this thing. But but oh, and as far as weather too, it looks like it'll be like some days next week it's going to be like maybe around this area, maybe like high 60s, 70s, maybe yeah, maybe further up. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I stayed down here a few days and go up to DC, it'll start getting warmer. But it might still be about like 50 or something when I get to DC area, and then might go a little further up the northeast depending on how I'm feeling. I don't know. We'll just see what happens with that. But yeah, I might go to like, I thought about going. I wanted to go to like, one thing I really want to do, which I wanted to go for a while, is like go to like New Jersey and do like the Sopranos tour, try to find filming locations from the Sopranos. I bet I went through like that area a couple times recently, but I was with somebody else where I didn't even get to stop there, so it's just like, so I just kind of drove by and saw like, oh, there's like the Meadowlands and stuff, but didn't like, but anyway, yeah, so that's about it. So yeah, so that's the trip, and hopefully it'll be really fun with this boat and everything, and it won't, but it just gives an extra thing to do for entertainment, for fun and exploration on the trip. Talk to you later.